The day I had long anticipated finally arrived. It was time to break free from the constant presence of your face and the freeloaders who took without ever giving back. They should have appreciated the generosity they received all these years. With newfound resolve, I declared, I won't be coming back. Thank you for everything until now. I quickly packed my essentials and bid farewell to the house that had been my home for so long. As I stepped outside, I caught a glimpse of satisfaction on my mother-in-law's face, oblivious to the poignant secret I carried with me. My name is Megan. I'm 35 years old and work remotely. I've been married to Charles for 6 years, but our marriage faced challenges when his once healthy father fell seriously ill, demanding our constant attention. Although I hesitated to move in with my in-laws, I agreed out of necessity. Charles was their only family able to provide care. Initially contemplating quitting my job to manage his care full-time, my company allowed me to continue working remotely due to my strong performance. However, living with my in-laws quickly revealed its challenges, including the classic tensions between a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Megan, hurry up with the cooking and cleaning. How long will you avoid your household duties? My mother-in-law would chide. I'm working right now. I'm always just clicking away at the computer. I'd retort, juggling chores and caring for my ailing father-in-law. After 4 months of intense effort, I managed to return to my pre-crisis salary, which brought me a deep sense of joy. Yet my relentless dedication was fueled by a harsh financial reality. Charles's income alone couldn't support us. Despite hoping for a more relaxed life ahead, financial struggles persisted, prompting me to consider saving some money. As time passed, my financial challenges multiplied inexplicably. It felt as if my wallet was draining. Concerned, I scrutinized our expenses and, to my dismay, discovered that Charles had developed a penchant for unnecessary luxuries. My mother-in-law, too, indulged in extravagance, often splurging on hobbies and social events. Eager to please, Charles frequently used our credit cards for not just work-related lunches but also lavish parties with friends. Meanwhile, the burden of household chores and caring for my father-in-law rested solely on my shoulders. I was using nearly all my income to cover our living expenses, making saving money seem like a distant dream. Worried about our dwindling finances, I cautiously approached the topic with Charles. It seems we've been spending excessively. If this continues, we might deplete our savings entirely. Could you please consider cutting back? His response was far from understanding. I don't want to seem stingy in front of my colleagues and subordinates. Can't you understand that? I get that maintaining good relationships at work is important, but paying for their expenses every time isn't necessary, I reasoned. And what about those nights out at the bars? Surely that has nothing to do with work. My concerns were harshly dismissed, leaving me frustrated and anxious about our financial future. As I struggled to balance our household needs with ongoing financial irresponsibility, it became increasingly clear that I needed to find a way to rein in the spending or risk serious financial turmoil. I confronted Charles, my frustration bubbling to the surface. It feels like you just want to have fun, doesn't it? You come home drunk and talk about your outings as if no one else matters. Sometimes it seems you enjoy those moments more than being with me. My mother-in-law, however, brushed off my concerns with a laugh. I'm glad Mom understands, Charles said, confidence dripping from his voice. My mother-in-law defended her spending habits. If I didn't take these classes, I'd just be stuck at home all day. I'm enjoying time with my friends, she insisted. Their harsh words echoed in my mind, leaving me grappling with their dismissal. They labeled me a terrible daughter-in-law, criticizing me for not earning a traditional income, even though I was dedicated to managing the household and caring for my father-in-law. To them, that made me unworthy of any complaints, a notion that baffled me. Despite their judgment, I knew the truth. I was working diligently from home, contributing a steady income while balancing housework and caregiving. Their skepticism and condescending attitude toward my remote work were disheartening. To add insult to injury, my mother-in-law had woven a narrative for Charles that painted her as the sole caregiver for my father-in-law, portraying me as a lazy homemaker. This twisted perception of my role left me speechless and pained by the injustice. Throughout the countless times I considered leaving this difficult situation, it was my deep concern for my father-in-law that kept me grounded. From the early days of my marriage, he had always treated me with genuine kindness, a stark contrast to the way Charles and my mother-in-law treated me. His sincere expressions of gratitude, often calling me a wonderful daughter-in-law, touched my heart. Whenever he needed care, he would apologize for the inconvenience and always express appreciation for my dedication. These moments provided me solace and a strong sense of purpose in caring for him. I couldn't bear the thought of leaving my father-in-law at the mercy of Charles and my mother-in-law. He seemed acutely aware of the family dynamics and recognized my contributions not only in caregiving but also in maintaining our household's financial stability. His words of appreciation were a source of comfort, fortifying me with the strength to endure an environment that often felt hostile. The fear of what might happen to the household without my stabilizing presence weighed heavily on me, but my greater concern was for my beloved father-in-law. So, I resolved to stay and provide him with dedicated care till the end. A year later, his funeral became an emotional battleground. Amidst my profound grief, my tears were met with cold disapproval, intensifying the weight of my loss. This reaction only underscored the complexity and emotional turmoil of my situation, yet it reaffirmed the importance of my role in his final days. "Why are you crying so much, Megan? He's passed away. Isn't it natural to mourn?" I was questioned, but my response only seemed to irritate my mother-in-law. She accused me of making it sound as if she had never cared for him. In reality, her presence had been largely absent. Her focus on hobbies and frequent social outings meant that the majority of caregiving responsibilities fell to me. Despite my efforts, she portrayed herself as the downtrodden, pitiful mother-in-law to those outside our immediate family, painting me as the cruel daughter-in-law to our relatives. This twisted narrative suggested that I was being unfairly harsh on her, even as I grappled with my own grief. I found myself facing criticism from those who had little understanding of the true dynamics within our household. Frustrated, I began to distance myself from these relatives, a shift that did not go unnoticed by Charles. "You embarrassed Mom in front of everyone," he confronted me. I was baffled by the accusation. "That makes no sense. I was just crying over the loss of my father-in-law. Your mom thought it was odd how much I cried, but I never said she didn't care for him. I was simply expressing my sorrow for someone I deeply cared about." As the argument escalated, Charles accused me of insulting his mother and suggested that if my grief upset me so much, perhaps I should reconsider my actions. I stood my ground, reiterating that my tears were solely for my father-in-law, whom I had cherished, and not a critique of anyone else. After his passing, the tension between Charles and me intensified, leading to a fierce argument that required relatives to step in and calm us down. In the aftermath, I chose to remain silent as the funeral proceedings wrapped up. Shortly thereafter, a lawyer arrived to discuss the will and the distribution of the estate. "I'd like to go over the contents of the will regarding your late father's estate. Firstly, to his wife and daughter-in-law, Megan, he has left half of his cash assets to each of you. To his son, Charles, he has left the ownership of the family land and home." My mother-in-law immediately interjected, "If Charles gets the land and the house, why is Megan receiving an inheritance? She isn't related by blood." The lawyer replied, "Your husband was deeply grateful for the dedicated care Megan provided. He wanted to express his gratitude by including her in the inheritance. This decision is final and cannot be changed." Unable to accept this, my mother-in-law accused me, "I can't believe it. You were only caring for him to get the inheritance, weren't you?" I defended myself. I've had a good relationship with my father-in-law since I married into this family. I cared for him out of love and respect, grateful for the way he had always treated me. Yet my mother-in-law continued to accuse me of manipulating him psychologically. Eventually, her protests seemed to exhaust themselves, and the lawyer resumed the discussion. "This was your father's decision," he affirmed, revealing a vindication of my genuine affection and care for my father-in-law. His gratitude was not only heartfelt but also legally recognized, despite the bitter suspicions from others. As the lawyer confirmed the terms of the will, my mother-in-law's previously discontented expression transformed into an unexpected smile. "Yes, that's great. I understand," she exclaimed, nodding enthusiastically. Charles, confused, asked, "What do you mean?" It seemed strange for her to switch her stance so suddenly. With an air of satisfaction, she explained, "Now that Dad's gone, we no longer need to rely on Megan. Her inheritance is just like severance pay. We don't need her in this house anymore." She had grossly misunderstood my father-in-law's intentions, interpreting the will as an opportunity to sever ties with me rather than as a recognition of my contributions. Unbeknownst to her, this was precisely how my father-in-law had planned it. Before his passing, he confided in me his wish for me to be free from the constraints of living under the same roof as my in-laws. He designed the will not only as a gesture of gratitude but as a clever ruse to facilitate my departure in a way that seemed natural to others, including deceiving Charles and my mother-in-law about his true intentions. My mother-in-law saw this as a chance to push me out of the family, seizing the moment while concealing my actual desire to leave. I feigned shock and sadness. "Why would you treat me like this?" I lamented, trying to give the impression that I was merely another caretaker in his eyes. Turning to Charles with tears in my eyes, I struggled to convey my heartache. "I plead with you, you can't understand Megan anymore, right? Why don't you just divorce her?" After a moment of contemplation, perhaps swayed by his mother's influence, Charles replied, "You know what? Let's get a divorce." This dramatic turn of events aligned perfectly with the hidden plan my father-in-law and I had crafted, setting me on a path to regain my independence and escape the constraints and conflicts of my in-laws' home. After the reading of the will, Charles inherited the family home and land, while his mother received a portion of the cash. With these assets secured, Charles casually remarked, "There's no longer any need to worry about living arrangements, so it's okay if Megan leaves." "What do you mean by that?" I asked, though I suspected I knew exactly what he meant. With an indifferent tone, he continued, "I hate to ask, but could you leave our house and agree to the divorce?" Realizing there was no place for me in their plans, I accepted the inevitable. "I guess there's no place for me here anymore." With a calm resolve, I opened a drawer, retrieved a document, and handed it to him. It was the notice of filing for divorce, prepared shortly after our last major argument. Charles quickly signed it, his relief palpable. "Finally, I don't have to deal with you anymore. A non-working freeloader should just get out. You should be grateful we put up with you." "Is that so?" I replied, masking the turmoil inside with a facade of gratitude. "Okay, I understand. I'll leave. Thank you for everything up to now." As I exited, my mother-in-law's face lit up with glee, blissfully unaware of what the future held for their household without me. Once outside their home, I immediately submitted the divorce notice to City Hall. Arriving at the apartment I had secured in advance, I stepped into the spacious, empty room. The echo of my own words filled the space. Finally, I can be by myself. This is great. Overwhelmed with joy, I reveled in my newfound freedom, liberated from a marriage that had become increasingly suffocating. Here, in this new space, I felt a sense of possibility wash over me. I could start fresh, embrace solitude, and rebuild my life on my own terms. My deep gratitude goes to my late father-in-law for devising a clever plan that enabled my escape from the stifling environment of my in-laws' home. With this newfound independence, I settled into a comfortable life on my own, relishing the freedom to continue my remote work. This lifestyle not only honed my time management skills but also boosted my productivity, leading to an increase in my income. I enjoyed a peaceful existence free from external meddling, until an unexpected call from my ex-husband Charles shattered my tranquility. It had been a while since we last spoke, and I was perplexed. "Why are you calling me, Charles? Weren't you the one who wanted me gone?" "Megan, please help us. We're in a pinch," he pleaded, his voice strained. I couldn't help but chuckle at the irony. "What kind of joke is this? My salary hasn't changed, but suddenly you're running out of money." With a mix of amusement and finality, I prepared to deliver a harsh reality check. "That's because you no longer have my income to supplement yours. You squandered your entire salary on yourselves. Maybe it's time you and your mother learned some financial responsibility as adults." Confused, Charles asked, "What do you mean?" This moment highlighted just how much they had relied on me without acknowledgement, and now they were facing the consequences of their financial irresponsibility, a bitter lesson in prudence and planning. "While you were indulging in luxuries, my salary of about $6,500 a month was covering our living expenses. Now I'm earning even more, and I'm doing it all without anyone holding me back." Frustrated and perhaps realizing his predicament, Charles made a desperate plea. "Megan, can't we start over? It was a mistake to let you go. I want to make things right." I scoffed at his sudden change of heart. "It's clear you're just after my income. Don't be ridiculous. I never want to see your face again. What happened to the inheritance your mother received? She should be living comfortably with that." Charles confessed, "It's about to run out. We spent it on a shopping spree, overseas trips, and lost half of it at the casino." Unmoved by his admission, I replied sharply, "A foolish mother raises a foolish son. I have nothing more to say to you. I'm a stranger now, and I can't help you, nor do I want to. Desperate, Charles implored. Don't be so heartless. Help me. This has nothing to do with me. There's nothing more to talk about. I'm hanging up. Don't call me again, I declared, ending the call and promptly canceling my mobile contract. A year later, while passing by my former mother-in-law's house, I noticed it had become an empty lot, likely sold due to financial struggles. Unperturbed, I continued with my life, enjoying my newfound free time. I attended a wine class I had long been interested in and met a man 3 years my senior who took our relationship seriously. After a year and a half of dating, we got married. He is an executive at a well-known company, humble despite his high salary, with a warm and wonderful character. We respect each other's careers, leading to a fulfilling married life. Reflecting on these changes, I can't help but feel that, in a way, this was a form of retribution, a gift from my father-in-law, allowing me to find true happiness and respect in a relationship.
Our son and his wife, who had recently welcomed their newborn, planned to visit our home for a long-awaited introduction. For our daughter-in-law, Lily, this would be her first visit to our home. My husband and I were excited and busy preparing for the occasion. Our home was in the countryside, no flashy neon signs or upscale neighborhoods like in the city. Instead, we offered the peaceful sounds of birds and insects and prepared hearty, comforting meals. But then, an unexpected comment from our daughter-in-law shattered the anticipation.
What a dirty place. Is this what you'd expect from a poor countryside family?
Did she mean us? Her son hadn't told her about the family business yet. He probably wanted to avoid scaring her off, but that decision led to a huge misunderstanding. My usually calm husband's face turned stone cold as he spoke in a low voice. Then leave.
Wait, I didn't mean...
She turned and saw my husband appear from the back, realizing the gravity of her words too late. My life had spanned over 50 years, and I never imagined I'd be managing an inn as the mistress. Life changed drastically after marriage, but walking this path with my strong and loving husband has been fulfilling. Together we raised 2 wonderful children, and I've always felt grateful for the life we built. Let me share how I became the mistress of an inn. I didn't initially dream of working in hospitality. After college, I joined a company that dealt with interior products. My joy was traveling during weekends and long breaks. As a student, I had dreams of seeing the world, spending all my savings on overseas trips. As an adult, I began to appreciate Japan's charm and took trips to explore it deeply. During one such journey, I learned that it was possible not only to be a guest, but to work part-time at inns to learn about the area. In retrospect, many backpackers overseas do this, earning as they go. It made sense. Learn, earn, and travel. A perfect combination. I took on weekend jobs and even spent entire weekends helping during the busy New Year period. I loved resort jobs and once worked a whole month at a ski lodge. Friends used to joke that I was always in a different place whenever they called. My passion for travel was clear. The fateful encounter that happened when I was 25. I was working part-time at an old inn in the northern region. There, I met Brian, who was training to be a chef. He took a liking to me, noting my hearty appetite and cheerful demeanor. After my part-time stint ended, we kept in touch even after I returned home. When I become a full-fledged chef, my dream is to take over the restaurant attached to the inn. Will you support me? His proposal was direct, and I responded immediately. Training must be tough. I want to come as soon as possible to support you. We quickly decided to get married, and I quit my job to join him. Brian's parents and the seasoned staff at the restaurant welcomed me warmly. They treated me like family, and I felt at home right away. Brian was focused on becoming the head chef at the attached restaurant, training tirelessly at the inn. Naturally, I started working at the inn too. The job came with challenges, but after my somewhat monotonous job in the interior design company, this was refreshing. Everything at the inn felt novel and fulfilling. The beauty of the hospitality industry is that everything is connected to real life. I learned a lot, from plating dishes to serving guests, and even dressing in traditional kimonos. It was rewarding when guests would say, "I'll be back," with satisfied smiles. People travel for different reasons, to relax, escape, stress, or find themselves. But most guests come expecting warm hospitality, good food, and meaningful interactions. Knowing that I could contribute to these moments was incredibly fulfilling. It was especially touching when guests remembered me and returned years later. These connections made me appreciate the unique charm of running an inn. Over the years, I had 2 children. Our first child, a daughter, now works at an international company. She has no interest in the inn or the family business and aims for a transfer abroad. Our second child, a son, works in Tokyo. Although he never said it, I knew my husband felt a tinge of sadness. Deep down, he probably wished our son would become a chef and continue the legacy, but my husband respected his decision and didn't object. He truly is a kind and understanding man. Our employees and even guests supported us so much that I rarely found child-rearing difficult. My mother-in-law, Nicole, was particularly skilled at managing my father-in-law, Kyle, who was often strict and demanding. She ensured everyone worked comfortably and efficiently. I admired her work ethic. She never spared any effort. When I became the young staff of the inn, she brought a cake and celebrated with all the staff. Over time, I felt more like a member of the inn's extended family than just an employee. It felt like I had lived there forever. Looking back, I realized that my in-laws, my husband, and the staff's generosity allowed me to thrive. Surprisingly, life in the countryside suited me perfectly. Our village had many self-sustaining farms, supported by the area's rich natural resources. The clean water made the food and vegetables especially delicious. Even without electricity, we could cook and heat bath over a fire. We couldn't even panic if the tap water stopped. The nearby river provided us with clean water. On quiet nights, we fell asleep to the sound of the river and chirping insects. In the morning, we woke up to birds singing. It was a stark contrast to my city life, where I was glued to my phone amid the noise of traffic. Thanks to meeting Brian, I've lived a truly fulfilled life. I started as a helper, became the staff, and then transitioned from working in the inn to managing the restaurant. I am grateful to everyone I met along the way, but above all, I was thrilled that my husband's dream of being the head chef was coming true. The inn, which Kyle managed, was rich in history. While this heritage added value, the building's age and lack of modern aesthetics were hard to ignore. I personally loved the character of the place, but not everyone felt the same. Kyle, being a hospitality professional, never showed dissatisfaction in front of guests. However, he was set in his ways and fiercely protective of the inn's traditions. This loyalty especially applied to our longtime customers. No matter how Nicole tried to convince him, he was adamantly opposed to renovating the building. But the aging structure was a genuine problem. If we wanted the inn to continue operating, renovations were unavoidable. Everyone except Kyle agreed on this, and it caused a lot of tension. The attached restaurant, equally historic, was under my husband's care for repairs. I assumed we'd update it to be magazine-worthy, but my husband, just like his father, furrowed his brow and said no. The two of them were stubbornly traditional, identical in both expression and demeanor. Nicole kept trying to find a way to at least fix the dangerous, deteriorating parts. I'm not talking about unnecessary changes, just basic safety repairs for our guests.
If this inn reaches the end of its life, so will I. This place is my very soul.
At 80, Kyle was ready to retire, planning to pass the reins to my husband. But my husband was determined to remain the head chef, so we had to hire an external manager. Nicole sighed heavily while Kyle flared his nostrils, ready for battle. Their loyalty to regular customers was admirable, but we worried more about the potential collapse of the building.
What should we do with these 2 stubborn men?
She confided, half-jokingly. They even make the same expressions while saying the same things, I replied. While it was endearing, it also made me realize how resistance to change could be problematic. Renovating such an old wooden structure was costly, and there was a risk that new guests might not come if we changed too much. Still, it was only natural to think of attracting new customers and thriving. Since Brian and Kyle disliked discussing finances, Nicole and I often handled it.
We don't need a complete overhaul, but we should at least fix the places that are leaning dangerously.
She was right. A few restaurant owners from Tokyo have visited and suggested converting the place into a cafe-style eatery using its historic charm, but they were put off by the age of the building and by my husband's intimidating presence. One guest who muttered about eating in a dirty, outdated place nearly had hot tea spilled on him by my husband. While the building was old, it was never dirty. I kept it meticulously clean thanks to my years of training in the hospitality industry. However, the perception that old equals dirty was persistent. When I voiced this, my husband stayed silent and walked into the garden. I wanted to help him see that without changes, The building would eventually succumb to time. I hoped to renovate with a focus on safety and preserving the traditional feel. I wanted visitors from afar to experience the cultural charm of Japan, harmonized with the countryside landscape. This vision applied to both the inn and the restaurant. Despite the excellent service and food, we risked losing guests due to the building's reputation. Continuing to operate with safety concerns would be a bigger loss. The staff started to feel uneasy about the future. Around that time, we received a call from our son, Ryan, who worked in Tokyo. It was rare for him to call, so I wondered if something was wrong.
No, nothing's wrong,
he assured me.
I have someone I'd like you to meet. I know the inn and restaurant keep you busy, but could you make some time?
Ryan wanted to bring his girlfriend, whom he intended to marry. The whole family was overjoyed, even Kyle and husband, who had been grumpy during renovation talks. But I felt a little anxious. Would a city girl think poorly of our old buildings? Although it was unlikely she'd move here, I wanted the place to leave a positive impression as Ryan's family home. I wondered if it would be better to meet at a restaurant near the train station, but that felt like denying our pride in the inn and restaurant. 2 weeks later, Ryan called again.
Mom, about our visit to the house, we need to postpone.
What happened? Did the engagement fall through? I had a bad habit of jumping to worst-case scenarios.
No, it's nothing like that. Actually, Lily, that's her name, just found out she's expecting. The doctor says she's 3 months along.
What? Really? Ryan, you're going to be a dad?
Yeah, looks like it.
Oh my! Hold on a second. I forgot to end the call as I ran to my husband, breathlessly sharing the news. Then I rushed over to the neighboring inn to tell my in-laws. Kyle, being old school, looked stunned.
Isn't that out of order? Oh, times have changed, dear. It's not like when we were young.
Even though he was bewildered, joy crept into his expression, and I couldn't stop smiling either. My husband, on the other hand,
Ryan becoming a dad before even getting married? They call that a shotgun wedding, don't they? But it's still wonderful news. A baby's a blessing.
Exactly. Some couples wish for children but can't have them. We're truly lucky. My husband's eyes crinkled with emotion, and he already looked like a doting grandfather. The news of the upcoming baby brought immense happiness to our household and everyone around us. The joy that a newborn can bring is immeasurable. We agreed that Ryan and Lily could visit after the birth, as her health was the priority. I wouldn't be able to help with her care due to my responsibilities, but Lily, determined, planned to work until just before her due date. The two had a simple civil ceremony before the baby arrived, with plans for a wedding after the birth. A wedding would be nice for Lily's parents, and she probably wanted to wear a wedding dress too. Ryan shared the same thoughts, and we waited for the baby's arrival with excitement.
How soon can a baby go outside after being born?
When I raised our kids, I kept them in for about a month. Babies have weak immune systems, so you have to be careful.
A whole month? That feels so far away.
He was already lost in thoughts of his grandchild. At one point, he even joked about closing the restaurant for a day to visit the hospital, which made me laugh. And this was the same man who once said, "When this restaurant closes, so does my life." Now I wondered if it was the perfect time to bring up renovations. Since Lily and our grandchild will be visiting, wouldn't it be nice to make the restaurant and inn safer and sturdier for them? I braced for anger, but my husband just furrowed his brow and crossed his arms. His expression was different this time.
You're right. I cherish this place as it is, but with a grandchild coming...
The power of a grandchild is indeed remarkable. Wouldn't it be great if they could come here often, even as they grow? Yes, and you'll need to stay healthy for that too.
All right, let's find a skilled craftsman and a good design firm.
Well, that was quick. Just like that, the renovation for the restaurant was approved. Kyle was still hesitant about the inn.
The inn won't hold up much longer. Besides, grandkids are a rare blessing, aren't they?
With this motivation, it seemed the inn would soon follow suit. Finding a craftsman with the right skills and a reasonable budget would be the next challenge. While initial meetings for the restaurant and renovation went well, the actual construction would start after the baby was due. A few months later, Lily gave birth to a healthy baby. My husband, tears welling up, stared at the photos Ryan sent on his phone. I couldn't resist capturing his reaction on video and sending it back to Ryan. The renovation plans for the restaurant were progressing smoothly. The place would still be in its original state, when they visited, but by the following year, it would be transformed. Lily's recovery was going well, and they planned to visit us after the baby turned 1 month old. For Lily, this would be her first visit to our home. My husband and I were so eager we couldn't hide our excitement. Even the in-laws teased us about it. The new manager had started training at the inn, and Kyle was busy with the transition. He looked forward to a peaceful retirement filled with leisurely strolls. I read somewhere that after a birth, it's important to prioritize the mother who endured such an intense event. I remembered feeling overlooked after my own deliveries. I wanted Lily to feel cherished. Since she'd be breastfeeding, we'd have to be mindful of her diet. I wished she could enjoy and relax in a nearby spa, but she might hesitate to leave the baby with us. My mind was filled with ideas and worries, but I loved every minute of it. I hadn't felt this excited since I first joined the inn as a young bride. My husband and I talked more than ever as we prepared for Ryan and Lily's visit. My husband in particular was determined to serve a special meal he had been planning meticulously for months. When I suggested booking a reservation at another restaurant, he firmly declined.
If I'm not cooking, it won't be the same,
he insisted. Though this meant he'd be busy in the kitchen and not able to chat much, I knew it was important for him to show his craft. It was his way of creating a special memory for his son and grandchild. When the day finally came, Ryan, Lily, and their baby arrived as planned. Lily was stunning, dressed in what looked like her best outfit, perhaps overdressed for our rustic restaurant. She wore a navy dress and jacket reminiscent of parents dropping off their children at prestigious city schools. I wished I'd told her more about our place to manage expectations, but Ryan had wanted the setting to be a surprise. "Welcome, Lily. We're so glad to have you here," I said warmly. I set aside my usual kimono for a more comfortable outfit. My husband wore a casual shirt, though he would soon change into his chef's attire. He planned to introduce himself as the chef when serving the main course. Seeing my husband so excited to orchestrate this moment was surprising but endearing. His eyes, which had been misty with pride and love as he glanced at the baby, confirmed just how much this day meant to him.
Is this the place Ryan reserved?
She asked as she settled into her seat.
Yep. It's got character, doesn't it? The food is great. Trust me. The chef's a pro.
Ryan's voice carried a note of pride, and I noticed my husband's ears turning red as he took a sip of tea to hide his embarrassment. I stifled a giggle as I watched this moment of fatherly pride unfold. It was a tender, heartwarming scene, with 3 generations gathered around the table. Just as I felt a rush of gratitude, Lily said something that shattered the moment.
This place is filthy. Is this what you'd expect from a poor countryside family?
Perhaps she didn't mean for us to hear it, but my husband Ryan and I all caught her words clearly. Did she think our home was part of the nearby farmland? I realized Ryan hadn't mentioned our family business. Even if she thought that, I never expected such an unkind comment.
Hey, Lily, what did you just say?
Oh, sorry, Ryan. I know you're from here, but I've never been to a place that markets itself as rustic like this. I was shocked.
I felt something snap inside me, and I turned to my husband. His expression, which moments before had been soft with happiness, turned stone cold. This was the look he had when he was truly deeply angry. I wanted to step in, but I was too stunned by Lily's harsh words. Ryan, sensing the tension, tried to smooth things over and understand what Lily meant, but it was useless. She had already made her views clear. Lily had implied that our humble roots were synonymous with poverty, dismissing everything we stood for. She had no hesitation, no filter, even though she was speaking about her husband's family.
Lily, do you really think of my hometown like that?
Well, we're not planning to move back here, right? We're staying in Tokyo, so it shouldn't matter what I say.
What if someone criticized your hometown? I interjected, my voice low.
Oh, they wouldn't. It's the city, there's nothing to criticize.
The narrow-mindedness of her response left me speechless, but the worst part was that she had voiced these thoughts openly.
Visiting is one thing, but I could never live in a place like this. And what about our kids' education? How many schools are even around here?
My husband's expression darkened further. His voice was cold and sharp.
Then, go home.
Ryan, realizing how serious this was, quickly tried to get Lily to apologize, but it was too late.
Wait, I didn't mean...
My husband stood up abruptly, his face stern as he headed toward the kitchen.
And where did he go? Isn't the bathroom in the other direction?
He's not going to the bathroom, Lily. Just watch, I said. A few minutes later, my husband emerged in his chef's attire, carrying a quiet but imposing presence.
Wait, this is your restaurant?
Ryan finally spoke up, explaining,
Yes, my grandfather manages the inn next door and my dad is the head chef here. I wanted it to be a surprise.
The weight of her remarks settled heavily on the room.
I may have moved to Tokyo, but I respect my father and grandfather's work. They've been planning this meal for you, Lily.
My husband's voice, steady but resolute, cut through the silence.
We were ready to welcome you, but if you think so little of us, then finish your meal and don't come back.
He continued preparing the dishes, each motion precise and intense, as Lily's discomfort became palpable. This was not just about a bad first impression. It was clear her view of the countryside and our home wasn't going to change. Lily ate in awkward silence, surrounded by disapproval, while Ryan tried to process what had just unfolded. Meanwhile, I took a bite of my husband's food, finding it delicious as ever. Despite the tension, I felt proud of him and knew his talent needed to be preserved. When I married into this family, I was welcomed and supported. I had assumed Lily would receive the same embrace, but now it was clear that we couldn't accept her so easily. It was better that she stayed in Tokyo, far removed from us.
I'm sorry for what I said. This food is incredible.
Good. Now leave, and don't come back. Take care of your husband and child. That's all I ask. Ryan, you're always welcome to call.
Ryan looked pained, but understood.
What time is it?
Surprised, I checked the clock. It's just past 2 p.m.
Good. Still time to finish today's prep. Let's invite the neighbors for a gathering.
Ryan and Lily left, and though I felt for my son, I knew he sensed the divide between them. I hoped they could find happiness in Tokyo far from us. A month later, Ryan called, telling us he wanted a divorce. I understand, but raising a baby alone isn't easy, Ryan, and Lily's probably still adjusting.
She's been going out, Mom, leaving the baby behind. I can't do this anymore.
Take notes, Ryan. Record when she leaves and comes back. If you're caring for the baby alone, document that too.
I have been, but she's been drinking. She can't breastfeed after that.
I realized her obsession with city life had blinded her to motherhood's realities. You have to be clear with her, Ryan. Either work things out or move forward with a divorce. Ryan sounded heartbroken, but I knew he needed to face this head on. The lawyer Ryan had been consulting told him that if Lily willingly relinquished custody, things would be easier. Ryan had evidence of her nights out and even the times she didn't come home until morning. If Lily's behavior continued, it was likely that Ryan could gain full custody. However, he needed to be prepared to become a single father.
Why doesn't he just come here? He could work and raise the child in a supported place,
my husband said one night. I was surprised, considering he had said we were no longer connected to them. With the lawyer's help, Lily's infidelity came to light, making the custody battle easier. It turned out Lily didn't want custody. She had been overwhelmed by parenthood from the start. Whether she was simply unprepared or swept up in the fantasy of city life, it was clear she wasn't interested in raising a child. Ryan won full custody, and Lily's mother even sent a heartfelt apology letter offering financial support and childcare help. Despite everything, I wanted my grandson to meet Lily's family. I doubted Lily would come to visit, even if we arranged it. According to Lily's mother, Lily's life unraveled after their separation. Her latest escapade ended with her stumbling drunk into someone on the street, both of them intoxicated. Lily caused such a scene that she was taken to the police station. Ryan refused to bail her out, leaving her mother to fly in from her hometown to handle it. After learning that Lily had abandoned her baby and was partying, the officers sternly reprimanded her. Lily's father had left their family when she was young due to infidelity, creating a cycle that Lily couldn't break. I could never understand why people repeated the same harmful patterns they knew to be wrong, like a curse passed down generations. When I shared my husband's idea of having Ryan and the baby move here, Ryan sounded hopeful.
I can't quit my job just yet, but life here seems better for raising a child.
Take your time to decide, Ryan. It's your future and his. Our restaurant renovation continued with the vision of making it a welcoming place for our grandson. We kept the charm intact, and our longtime guests loved it. So, Brian, even you softened up for your grandson, a customer joked, and my husband blushed, nodding in agreement. Even Kyle had agreed to renovate the inn, influenced by the thought of his great-grandchild visiting. Watching these two stubborn men change for the sake of their grandson proved how special he was. The village was aging, and local politicians often stressed the need for child-friendly support. My husband and I agreed wholeheartedly. We didn't want to make this place a city, but a welcoming home for future generations. Not every young person in the city was like Lily. Many sought the peace and rejuvenation that the countryside offered. We wanted those young visitors to experience our inn and restaurant, to see the beauty of the village.
Wouldn't it be great if our grandson wanted to visit every summer?
Yes, it would, I said, smiling as my husband nodded with a contented grin. Summer came, and the village thrived with the warmth and light that seemed to touch everything. We completed the renovations in time, transforming the restaurant into a place that combined the charm of the old with subtle, modern comforts. It wasn't long before Ryan called to say he and my grandson would visit for a short stay. My husband's eyes lit up at the news, and I could see how much it meant to him to have them here. The day they arrived, the village felt even more alive. Ryan had a calm determination about him, holding his son securely as he walked toward us. My grandson's curious eyes widened as he took in the sights and sounds of our home.
Welcome back, Ryan. And you. Look how big you've grown,
he said, reaching out to take the baby into his arms. Watching my husband hold our grandson was like seeing a part of our past come full circle. The restaurant bustled with familiar guests who knew our story and were excited to meet the next generation. One evening, as the sun set and cast golden light over the village, Ryan sat down with us.
I've been thinking. Maybe moving back here isn't such a far-off idea. Life's simpler, more grounded. It feels right.
My heart swelled with hope, though I knew it wasn't an easy choice for him.
Whatever you decide, know that we're here. This will always be home.
The baby gurgled and reached out toward the evening sky as if to grasp the last rays of sunlight. It was then I realized that no matter where life took us or how many challenges we faced, this place, with all its history and love, was ready for the future. And as long as it stood, so would we. Over the next few weeks, Ryan and my grandson settled comfortably into the rhythm of village life. The simplicity seemed to suit them both, and Ryan looked more relaxed than I had seen in years. My husband spent countless hours showing Ryan the ins and outs of the kitchen, teaching him family recipes that had been passed down for generations.
One day, you'll teach these to him,
my husband said, glancing at our grandson, who was babbling in his high chair.
I like that, Dad.
The new restaurant, now bustling with new and old customers, became the backdrop for these moments of connection. People would come in to enjoy a meal and leave with stories of the little boy who laughed at everything. One evening, after the guests had left and the kitchen was quiet, Ryan spoke up.
Mom, Dad, I've made my decision. I want to move back here permanently. I think it's the best place for him and for me.
Tears pricked my eyes, and my husband put a hand on Ryan's shoulder, his face a mix of pride and gratitude.
Welcome home, son.
The following months were filled with preparations. Ryan transitioned to working remotely, taking on freelance projects that allowed him to stay close to family. The village, with its familiar faces and traditions, welcomed them with open arms. Our grandson grew up surrounded by people who adored him, from the elderly farmers who waved as he passed to the restaurant guests who watched him toddle around. He brought new life to the community, and even Kyle, who was now retired, found joy in showing him old family photos and telling stories.
You're the future, little one,
he'd say, his voice tender with age and affection. The renovations proved to be a turning point, not just for our business, but for our family as well. The restaurant thrived, and the inn, with its renewed safety and charm, attracted more visitors seeking an authentic experience. And in the heart of it all was our grandson, growing up with the warmth of tradition and the promise of the future. On summer evenings, as the village glowed under the setting sun, I would stand by the restaurant's door watching Ryan cook while my husband played with our grandson outside. The sounds of laughter, clinking dishes, and the chatter of happy guests filled the air. In those moments, I felt complete. Life had come full circle, and the village, with all its simple beauty, had found new roots.